Okay. How's everybody doing? Good morning. We've got Matthew Stewart. We've got Don Yoakum. A lot of people. Oh, this is exciting. Megan, how you guys doing? Well, man, we're coming in hot this morning. So appreciate y'all joining us. Atomic Habits weekly meeting, team meeting. There's just so much about community and collaboration, and especially in this crazy market right now. So, hey, I want to introduce, hey, we got Larry Benet here today. Larry, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for allowing me to be with you guys today.
Oh, man. Well, when we met in Vegas, I immediately knew that you were an influencer and that you had a lot of value to share. So, Larry, could you please share a little bit about yourself, and then let's just jump right into our content today.
Okay, awesome. I like to say my journey from like failed networker to like, super connector deal maker. Cause, these days, I can literally earlier this year, I reached out to my friend that runs the Grammys just to tell him how great of a job he was doing. And I was shocked that he responded during the Grammys. Um, it wasn't always that way. I've got people on my Rolodex from Sir Richard Branson. I've shared the stage with Jay Leno to Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen, Tony Robbins to Peter Guber, owner of the Golden State Warriors and the Dodgers, to the guys on Shark Tank were part of my invite-only events over the years. But if I look back to the early 1990s, I was an utterly failed entrepreneur, an utterly failing networker. Things were so bad. I remember I literally, in a span of 3 weeks, I tried to buy an airline. I declared bankruptcy. I went from not only buying an airline, but literally a few weeks later was selling magazines of all things for a company called Dial America. So it was about as bad as it can get. I remember a good weekend back then was getting some Chinese food and a Blockbuster Video, if people are old enough to remember Blockbuster Video. So I like to say I've been selectively outsourced 4 different occasions in my life. That's a nice way of saying I've been fired. But when I tried to go from financial services in the mid 1990s, when I was in my 20s, to go into the technology industry, I would ask people, "Hey, do you know anyone at Microsoft? Do you know anyone at Oracle? Do you know anyone at SAP?" And everyone would always say no. And so I don't know if anyone's ever felt hopeless or out of control, but for me, the only time I could relate this to is when I went skiing for the very first time. I had some clients in my first job out of college when I was in the automotive industry, and they took me to Park City, Utah for a vacation. And I went up this chairlift to the top of Park City, Utah. And I said, "How do I get down?" I thought I was going to go down on the chairlift. And they're like, "No, you're going to ski down." And I never skied before. So they thought that was kind of funny. So being totally out of control in the 1990s, in the beginning, I eventually was able to break into tech. And I took a job eventually with a company called the Gartner Group, which is a tech and a research consultancy. And my clients in the early days where they were fast growth software or hardware or tech companies. And that was the really first time that I learned how to, and not only, I guess, how to network, but more importantly than that, how to add value to my network. So in the beginning, I volunteered to be on the Southeastern Software Association. And the thing I did is I joined the group that allowed me to call on CEOs and other C-suite executives to join and participate at a meeting where they could speak or be on a panel. And eventually I rose up and I became the CEO of the Southeastern Software Association. And I really started to build my network of the C-suite executives. And what I started to do was connect the network. So for example, maybe there was one CEO whose stock wasn't doing so well. So I connected him with a CEO who was doing very well. I remember one time I was fortunate to invite a rock star CEO, him and his wife, and these guys were worth hundreds of millions of dollars at this time. I think between him and his partner, they were worth $1 billion. And I invited them out to a concert. And I thought, man, when they have this kind of money, they can go to any concert they want. And in my utter shock, the wife was so pleased that she got a night out with her husband during the week, because the guy traveled all over the world building this company. And I also invited another superstar CEO and his wife to join. And I know those two eventually became very close. And to this day, I'm still very close to those folks. And that same gentleman, whose name was Tom, he eventually invited me over to his house to play some tennis. And I was super excited about this. And before we were going to play, I said, hey, Tom, can I invite some other folks? Maybe we can just play doubles instead of me coming over to play. And keep in mind, I'm just in sales in the tech industry at this time. Anyway, long story short, I brought together 4 or 3 others, just really superstar CEOs. Probably the net worth of these guys was $1 billion. I really brought down the net worth that day. But, fast forward to 2007, I was selectively outsourced again for the last and final time. And it was at a time where I had a TBA, a tiny bank account, and I really had no idea what I was going to go do to make money. And I had my back up against the wall. I've always been like an entrepreneur or in sales. And when I was in sales, I would make a bunch of money, I would bank it, and then I would go start some entrepreneurial venture. And sometimes the venture didn't work, and I would go back into sales and make money. So at this time, I had very little money, not knowing exactly what I was going to go do. And what's interesting is I went to a seminar. Some of you guys probably remember this seminar in the 2007 timeframe by the Learning Annex. They would have people like Tony Robbins. They would have all the real estate investment gurus. And they also had Donald Trump at the time when he had the Apprentice TV show. And there was some lady named Mary. She introduced herself. By the way, it always pays, write this down, it always pays to be memorable. So this was in 2007. I remember this lady like it was yesterday, yet I've only met the lady one time in my life, because the way she introduced herself, she goes, hey, my name is Mary, as in Christmas, Miller, as in the beer. I mean, that was so memorable. She goes, hey, you're dressed very sharp. Would you like to ask Donald Trump a question? I was like, absolutely. And the question that I asked Donald Trump, I think at the time he had the #1 show on television with The Apprentice. And the question I asked him was, how did he handle stress and pressure? Because at the time I had very little money in my bank account, and I had to make something happen in a big way, because I was just making 6 figures and the job just got cut out from, I don't know if you've ever had money coming in and then all of a sudden money stops, but it's not a fun, pleasant experience. So anyway, that happened. And I asked Trump a question. So Tom, have you ever had like just like an aha moment in your life where like the light bulb goes off, so to speak?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just sitting on the edge of my chair. What was his answer?
So without going into all the details, at the time I was raising, this is at the time that Oprah Winfrey gave all those cars away for free. And I said, I don't have the money of Oprah Winfrey, but I have ideas and I have a network. And I always thought my ideas could turn into money. It was at the same time that there was 4 hurricanes in the state of Florida. So I don't know if any of your realtors are from the state of Florida. If they are, that would be interesting to know. But what I did is I came up with some ideas on how to raise money fast for the victims of the hurricane. And then eventually later that year, unfortunately, there was a tsunami that hit in East Asia that killed over 100,000 people. And I eventually raised money for that. So his answer, he talked about he didn't have pressure and adversity like the people and that faced the tsunami. But anyway, the light bulb went off in my head is like, you know what? I can go connect with anyone. I could go connect with a homeless person. I can go connect with a CEO. I can go connect with a celebrity. I can go connect with an entrepreneur. It's the same blocking and tackling. It's connecting. It's adding value. It's staying in touch in innovative ways. And that's basically kind of what I've done since then. And what's interesting, within 90 days of that conversation that I had with Trump, I met Larry King at a charity event. And within about 60 seconds to 90 seconds, he invited me to breakfast. I met Sir Richard Branson at another charity event. He was on literally the dance floor. There was about 500 people on the dance floor. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Sarah Blakely of Spanx. She's a billionaire. It was her charity event, and he had 2 security people around him. But I invited him to something that I thought he would care about, because at the time I did a lot of research. And what he talked about was giving a lot of money to charity based on the environment. So I invited him to a closed door meeting with people just like him, with other CEOs of big mega companies dealing with the environment. And I invited him, and he said, here's an email. if you want to follow up. So I thought he was giving me an email of an executive on his team. And to my utter shock, it was Sir Richard Branson's private email when I reached out a week later. The same thing happened with Bill Clinton. I was in a receiving line. This is all within about 90 days of all this happening. But I was in a receiving line for a charity event to give money to the Clinton Global Initiative. And it was, you were only going to get a picture. And there was basically picture, move on, and there's Secret Service. And I still remember engaging with the president. One thing led to another. But I write this down. If you could give someone an experience, if you can give something of value that they can't get on their own, that's really been the secret for me. And I'll share simple things on how everyone in their own respective markets, they could become the go-to resource. They could become a trusted advisor to anybody. They can add value at scale to their entire network. Because if it works with Sir Richard Branson, if it works with President Clinton, it's going to go work with almost anybody. But in regards to President Clinton, I was doing some fundraising. I was on the fundraising team for We Are the World, the song with Lionel Richie, Quincy Jones, Justin Bieber, Celine Dion. And I said, hey, would you like to play sax with some of the greatest artists of our generation? And I explained who all was performing. And that's when he told Secret Service to come over, and they handed me his card to follow up with him. So anyway, like I said, the aha moment led to that. And within that same year, I happened to meet a self-made billionaire who I just wanted to befriend and add value to. He eventually became my client, and one thing led to another. I eventually launched a group called Sang, where Tony Robbins and Peter Guber and the guys from Shark Tank and other well-known influential people, including the guys from the Grammys and others, became part of this mastermind that I held once a year for about 10 years. So that's just kind of a high level background on me. But I thought I maybe just can, and by the way, I don't know if you want to just do this with Q&A, if you want me to just share. I wrote down some ideas that I think anyone can benefit from. So you tell me how you want to kind of proceed from here.
I already wrote down a whole handful of ideas and nuggets already. Just in you sharing your background, that you do research to learn about other people, and then you connect with them and you identify what they care about, and then you add value in that particular version.
I want everyone to write this down. Be a VC. Not a venture capitalist. I mean, if you can be, those are great, but be a value creator. Because I think a real estate agent, or anyone for that matter, can be a value creator to their market, and they could do it at scale. And so just to kind of share some ideas, I wrote down some ideas on how every agent in their own city can go do that. So first of all,
before you do that, could you tell us what are you doing right now?
So for the last umpteenth years, I've been more of a deal maker. I've been more of a connector. Here's just literally a real world scenario on how things happen. A year and a half ago, I met someone at the Virgin Hotel. We were introduced to a mutual speaker friend. We had dinner. We connected. A week later, he tells me he's got the best business deal of his career. I didn't pay any attention. He indicated to me a week later he had spoken to Michael Dell and Richard Branson about this deal. That got my attention. One thing led to another. Eventually, I brought the buyer to the table, raised about $20 million to facilitate a transaction a year and a half ago, in an industry that I knew nothing about, in the defense industry. 6 weeks ago, more recent and more applicable to today, I was at my friend's house that I've known him for 25 years. We have a lot of friends in the transformational leadership world, so to speak. And I asked him what he's up to, and he's got the fastest growing solar brokerage in America. As a matter of fact, he modeled it after EXP. And I said, that's interesting. We talked about roll-ups and acquisitions, and one thing that was most of our conversation. I then fly to Vegas. I have another conversation, and I bump into these other guys. I don't know them that well. They were guests of mine at the Super Bowl 2 years ago in LA. And I said, hey, what are you most excited about now? And they said, we're starting a solar marketing company. I'm like, you should go talk to my buddy Jim. He's got this incredible company in solar. They're the fastest growing in the country. I literally took my earbuds out, one earbud in his ear, one earbud in his ear, and I connected the two. And literally like a week later, they ended up meeting. I facilitated the meeting, and now they're kind of like business, working together in a very similar model to the way EXP works. But more these days, I'm much more of a deal maker connector as far as that's concerned.
Larry, did you get compensation in regards to that solar deal connection that you did?
So, truth be told, it was on the first night of the football season when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. I literally am walking out of my friend Jim's house with my friend who came over that's got the solar company. And I was walking out and I say to my friend Jim, I said, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes before I leave? So the other guy leaves. I said, obviously I facilitated this. I said, how does this all really work? He goes, here, don't even worry about it. I'll set you up. You can override the whole block of business. And I was like, wow, very similar probably how you guys model at, with EXP. But in all fairness, in all transparency, I was just trying to connect two people in my network because it was the right thing to do. I'd say 98% of the things that I've done for the last 30 years has always been because it's the right thing to do for people in my network. I help a lot of people on any given day. I connect a lot of people on any given day. I add value to as many people. And I always believe you should be kind and generous. And, you should always listen to others based on their goals, their needs, stuff like that. But in this case, and what's crazy is if you would have asked me 7 weeks ago what I do, it would be mostly full-time on deal making. And I'm still going to do deal making. These days, I'm spending a lot of time on the solar, setting up partnerships for my buddy's company because I found out how interesting the space is. But to answer your question.
Well, so you guys go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, what I was going to say is, so I wrote down a bunch of things that you guys could do in your own respective markets to be that value creator. So for example, like what are all the things that homeowners like ultimately buy? I wrote just down a few, maybe we can kind of brainstorm together. I thought, there's landscaping, there's pools, there's bathroom and kitchen remodels. There's, sometimes they're going to need HVAC. Other times it's going to be swimming pools. Obviously solar is very hot. So solar is going to be things, but think of all the things. So I don't know, like if you think of a family office, if you have one, you got to be worth about 100 million or more. And the way it is, it's like a spoke. There's an attorney, there's the accountant, there's the financial advisor in the middle that's managing all these parts to ultimately help their one client be more successful financially, to manage risk, to create more wealth. And I look at you guys as the agents of change for your clients to be the trusted resource for the homeowner. And it's not just selling the home, because if you do a great job, if you create a raving fan, hey, Tom, what's if someone creates a raving fan and they sell the house once, what's the numbers in real estate on how many times they'll get referrals, how many times the person will buy over the lifetime? Do you know those numbers?
Sure. Yeah. With every listing, it multiplies to get another listing and then another buyer. So from every listing, it's should be 3 transactions.
Right. So the things I'm going to share with you will help, I think, allow you guys to just get more referrals, become that trusted resource over and over and over. You guys could brainstorm and figure out other things that are attached to the home or things that homeowner will want or need. And I would definitely try to figure out who are the other trusted resources in those marketplaces. And I would tell my client, hey, if you ever need anything, call me first and let me connect you to one of the trusted resources and say, hey, I'm one of the most connected people in Reno. I'm one of the most connected people in Tahoe or Vegas or Orlando or wherever you guys might be. Now, some other things that I've done over the years, and you may just want to write these down. If you can help someone with their career or their children's career, that goes a long way. If you can help them, their family in some way, shape, or form. If you help someone with their health, okay, I'm telling you, that's always a game changer. If you help someone when they're down, maybe they lost their job, maybe they're not making as much money, times are tough, interest rates are high, whatever it is. I've helped numerous people over the years with their charities. I've helped Sir Richard Branson. I've helped Larry King. I've helped all these people. And the way I initially got in was helping them oftentimes on their charity. And the other thing is, if you could figure out and pinpoint what is most important to someone else at that one moment in time, what I do is I put this in my phone or my CRM or both. but that's a very helpful way of doing things, just to be a resource to other people. And it's not so much about it's not about being salesy. It's not even being a sales guy. It's just about, like I said, connecting dots. And it's just going to happen in the flow of conversation, or you see something on social media, and then you're just that ultimate resource continuing.
Well, this is good stuff. This is great. So what other tips do you have for real estate agents, obviously, to be a resource to our clients in this tough, difficult market, so we can share with them value, share with them what their options are if they are going through some type of a difficult time? What other tips would you have for real estate agents working with their clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just about being, if you think about it, it's in terms of, I'll give you an example. I'll just play along with you, and because I don't know if everyone can like chime in and ask or answer, but for example, like, what is your favorite app personally on your phone that either saves you time or money? Just as an example.
So I'm thinking probably, what's my favorite app to save me time or money? I mean, probably my text app, just because.
Okay. And what's the text app called?
Yeah. What's that?
What's the app called?
I just use the iPhone text app.
Okay, no problem. I have a question. So this is, again, I don't know if everyone can respond or not. So I don't know if everyone's muted or not, but here's my question.
Yeah,
okay. So for example, in each and everyone's respective communities, and I've seen different agents do it different ways, but I've seen people do short, like mini podcasts or mini interviews. Then they're clipping the stuff on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube or whatnot, but where they're interviewing, people that, maybe they've got the cool restaurant in town or other cool resources in that city. I'm just more of asking a general question. Is there anyone on here that's very good, for example, just at understanding how to use TikTok? And whether, if there is, that's great. If there's not, that's okay too. I just wanted to give you an example. I'm gonna bet there's a large percentage of the people on the call, including myself, that are not very good at using TikTok. But let's just say you happen to have that skill, or let's just say you happen to have a friend that's younger that really knows how to use the app. If you're out there, cultivating and nurturing relationships in your market with business owners or fellow entrepreneurs, there's a large chance, depending on their age group, they may or may not really know how to use TikTok very well. So if you could be the resource to show them that, or if you could send them an article, or if you can send them a podcast, or if you can send them a TikTok video, just to be the resource. I am doing this kind of stuff like all the time, and it's very, very helpful. Does that make sense, guys? I don't want to be the only, I want to make this more of a conversation versus me just kind of sharing and throwing out a ton of ideas.
Well, and Larry, what I really hear you saying is just look for opportunities to create value in your relationships. And I think what is remarkable about you is there's no lid on what you believe you're capable of in terms of value creation, or to whom you could create that value. I mean, to on the fly, to be able to think, because you know that Bill Clinton plays the sax, you knew that, you had a pretty good hunch that would probably resonate with him, right? And,
I want to share something just so you guys understand the thought process in regards to this. Maybe no more than 1 hour before I was supposed to meet President Clinton. And by the way, I had paid extra money to be in a small meeting room with Bill Clinton. That's not what it turned out to be. He ran late, and the money that I spent ended up going to his charity, but it was not a small little meeting. It was a photo op with Secret Service. It was basically take picture, move. That's not a really ideal situation to have a conversation with the president. It was 1 hour beforehand. I called the guy that was the co-creator of We Are the World. And I said, hey, would you be okay if I invited President Clinton? He goes, that'd be awesome. I said, would he be allowed to play sax? He goes, I can't make that decision. The musical director makes that decision. But I also knew by thinking quickly on my feet. So I would say this, I am of the belief, every one of us can offer some, no matter who they are, no matter how wealthy, no matter how successful, no matter how connected, everyone has needs. The more successful they are, they might have a charity. Like, for example, I've helped Fortune 500 CEOs when they've had their book launches. You would think a Fortune 500 CEO wouldn't need much help. You would think a billionaire wouldn't need much help. But sometimes they don't want to go ask their friends to go promote their book. And at the time, I have influential friends that have got massive social media reach or massive email list. And I went out and said, hey, will you promote this book? And they were glad to do it because it was value on both sides.
So Larry, here's what I think is just really resonating with me about your message is that what you do is you take the moment to ask the question, I am about to meet Bill Clinton. What could I do? What experience could I give to him that would be really unique and he would consider valuable? You call the people from We Are the World and say, hey, you didn't say, I got Bill Clinton. You said, if I could, would you? Right?
Yes.
And then once they gave you that blessing, then you could go to Bill and legitimately offer that. Right? And I think the problem that we have is that we're so damn focused on just making the next transaction. Like oftentimes when I'm coaching people on databases, I'll say, well, do you know the occupation of everyone in your database? All of your contacts? I mean, are these not the people that you're asking to refer you? But yet you don't take the time to even find out what their career is or what would be an ideal client for them?
All right, let's do this. This is a great opportunity to do this right now. Okay, I'm always a big believer. Let's be present. They always call that the great gift, just by being present in the moment right now. I want everyone to take out their cell phones. We're going to go text someone you have not reached out to in 90 days. Or you could do a couple different things. And I'm going to give you the questions that I text and I do this every single day. So some of the questions that I like to ask is, and first of all, I always tell people how much I appreciate them. So if there's someone that's done something for me in the past or recently, I want to let them know how much. So for me, I'm 54 years old. I've had mentors as they're getting older. I want to let them know exactly what they've meant to me in my life. But one of the things I do, I just want to I wrote this down. So I'll give you guys some of the questions that I use. Here's what I want you guys to send out in a text message right now to some of the people. This is the $1 million phrase that I have used probably for the last 25 years. And I tell you, it's exactly what you're talking about, Don. What I'll ask is, what are you most focused on and most excited about right now? So here's the exact text you guys should write or change up ever so slightly. Hey, Don, it's Larry. Long time, no talk, period, new paragraph. How are you doing? Period, new paragraph. I just wanted to find out what you're most focused on and excited about at the moment. Period, no paragraph. I want to start doing it. You don't have to add this. If you want, you can. The last little line, and a lot of times that's all I send. If you want to add one other little line to it, it could say something along the lines of, I am super connected here in town. I just want to add more value to you in some way, shape, or form. Or you don't have to even add that last one. But those are simple things. I'm telling you, every single day. I'm going to share one thing that'll change your life. Just write this down though. Every day for the next 30 days. And if you do it for the next 90 days, I promise you it will change your life. If you reach out to 5 people a day, and 5 people a day is nothing. But if you reach out to find out what 5 of your most valuable relationships, what they are focused on, what is what's most excited to them, or what the number one project that they care about currently, that they care about, not you. Yes, I know you want their listing. I know you want their referrals, but if you focus just on investing value to them, guaranteed at some point, they're going to be reciprocating. And by the way, guys, give to givers. If you built a whole client base that are givers like Tom and Don, I guarantee you your life's going to change. If you give to takers all day long, it'll be transactional at best. So I've learned to give to givers. I've learned to add value to other people that are just amazing at what they do. So if you want to just text right now, hey, long time no talk. We haven't talked in a while. Was just thinking about you. Would love to find out what you're most focused on and excited about now. Or I would love to find out what your most exciting project that you care about that you're currently working on now. And normally I'm doing that every single day at scale. But if you did that to 5 people a day over the next 30 days, that's 150 people in your network. And you keep on doing that and just create a Word doc or a spreadsheet or keep it somewhere. And I know what Dave's working on. I know what Don's working on. I know what Kurt's working on. I know what Megan's working on. They've just texted me. And now this information's on my screen. And I have like antennas, the way my brain thinks. I do this all the time. I reached out a week and a half ago. Israel got attacked during the terror. I'm Jewish. I reached out to a lot of my Jewish friends. And I reached out to someone that I know in Israel. I don't know him that well, but I met him at a tech conference, an investors conference about a year ago. And then I found out he was now drafted. Now he's he was running a tech company very successfully. And now he's on the front lines of war. And he's telling me what he needs, like supplies. So I reached out to one of my friends who is very influential. That guy literally responds back within 1 minute. And, he's a multi-billionaire, owns a professional basketball team. I'm like, hey, are you aware of any fundraising? And my message to him was, this is horrible. We got to go support these people. And I gave him 3 different ideas on how we could raise money. And I'm like, what if we got these 5 to 8 people on a phone call? What could we do? But it's all about value.
So Larry, you're making me think about a gentleman that Tom Daves and I know. He's a loan officer in Portland. His name is Jerry Wilson. Andrea may know that name, but she's in the area. But so this guy has the Nike account, right? He's a loan officer and he has the Nike relocation account.
That's pretty cool.
You go into his office and he's got these manila folders, but up on the wall, you can see the folders. If they're golden folders, they're Nike account, they're Nike files, right? So what this guy does is he works out with his HR director twice a week. And and I'm always like, okay, well, how could you help him? Well, the guy doesn't need a referral. He's a director at HR. Okay, maybe. Okay. So what does Jerry Wilson do? Every year, Jerry Wilson buys 500 Girl Scout boxes from this guy's daughter. And then he gets them sold. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was working at that company at the time. And of course, I ended up buying boxes of Girl Scout cookies because Jerry's trying to help out his friend. But the point is, he's doing what you're talking about. This guy has a $30 million annual account because he's constantly finding ways of being a VC, a value creator.
Now, here's the thing. I realize not everyone on this call can afford to go buy 500 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. But let's just say you cannot. What things can you do for free? Can you send an article of value? Yes. I have a friend who has a podcast and he's one of the top experts in the world. So for example, this book, Atomic Habits, which I'm sure is probably how you guys came up with this call or the name. He teaches people how to read faster, memorize faster, or whatever. So every once in a while, I'm talking to someone and they're talking about, man, I wish I could read faster. I wish I could learn more, retain more. I'm like, so all I do is I send them a link to his podcast. Doesn't take me any time. Inside my phone, I have so many categories of different things that'll be of value, podcast, articles, videos, things that I could just, that, or, you know, restaurants in Vegas, restaurants in New York, restaurants in Atlanta. So if someone calls me and say, hey, Larry, do you have any idea? I used to live in Atlanta for 20 years. Hey, Larry, what's a good place to go in Atlanta? Hey, boom. Oh, someone's in Portugal. I have a friend that lives in Portugal. She sent me like a list of things to do in Portugal. I've never been to Portugal, but she sent it to me, you know? So it's just about being creative on how you could serve your network. And it's more about just, you know, thinking about them. You know, we talked about when times are tough or economic times or whatever, but just being there for people sometimes. You know, you talk about experiences, like what other kind of experiences can you invite people to? So a lot of times it's not money. When Larry King had a charity event, I could not afford the ticket to go to the charity event. I went to his son. I'm like, hey, if I could help you get tickets sold, could I go to the event? Yes. Can I volunteer for the event? Yes. You know, it's like those kind of things. It's like thinking outside the box. Can you create, are there things that you could do or bring your network together in some capacity? Doesn't mean you have to pay. Maybe it's you're arranging where it's a networking thing amongst your tribe of customers. Or there's different things in your own, you know, communities that you can invite people out to that maybe they're picking up their own tab, but it's an experience that all of you guys will be able to do together.
Man, this is awesome. This is great. Well, hey, Larry, thank you so much. Man, we've got pages of notes. This is amazing. Larry, if someone wants to reach out to you, what would be the best way? And also, what are you most focused on and most excited about right now? How can we add value to you?
You know, ever since I connected with my buddy Jim, who's in the solar space, I have been literally super excited about helping people, you know, go green in terms of that. And I would, you know, I'm basically setting up referral partnerships on that where I could send a couple $1,000 for each referral on the solar side. So I'd say right now that is really where I'm focused on. And then I'm going to focus more on, you know, speaking just to share these ideas to help more people as far as that's concerned.
Awesome. And if someone wants to reach out, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You know, if they want to just hit me on my Instagram or something, they can go to on Instagram. I'm Larry K, and my last name is Benet, Benet. So that's Larry K Benet on Instagram. And just message that they were on this call with you, and I'll respond back. Or they can, or my personal contact. It's just if you go to onetapconnect.com/Larry Benet, that's all my information. And they can just hit me that way. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Larry. This was awesome. I really appreciate it. A lot of value, man. Continued success, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And hey, this Friday, we've got Tony Amaretto. He's going to talk about new construction and why there's more new construction homes selling right now than anything else, and how we can capitalize on that. 9 a.m. Pacific this Friday, Freedom Friday. See y'all later. Thanks a lot, Larry. See you. Have a good day.
Appreciate everybody.
Thanks, Larry.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.